Hey everybody, today on the 167 we have a conversation with Pastor Rick and Pastor Nick discussing the last weekend's message where Pastor Rick and Pastor Cam talked about the next generation. We're going to talk about the things that concern us a little bit and some things that are cause for a lot of hope and a call to action. So make sure you stick around for the rest of the 167. Hey everybody, welcome back to the 167. I am your temporary host this week. My name is Jake Reeves. I'm the creative arts pastor here at New Life, and I am joined today by the man beyond legend at this point.
Not near as legendary as that mustache. Like what? If you're not watching this podcast, you need to, because that mustache is legit.
It will make one Sunday appearance. So
I feel very intimidated. I'm not so legendary, but no, it's good to be here.
Okay, and the coming back for a secondary round.
First time ever they would be on 2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row, sitting in for Pastor Cam, who's gone away with the kiddos to camp. We have Pastor Nick Magana.
Yes.
Sorry, Cam. I hope I fill in your shoes.
Yeah.
So I thought we'd spend this entire time critiquing Pastor Cam's message and his stage.
So what I would do if I was youth pastor.
Yeah. I'm not the youth pastor, have no desire to be the youth pastor, but if I was, here's what I would do.
That would be the most helpful podcast ever. You know, Cam could listen to that on the way back from camp, you know,
Beautiful.
with everything, be like, those guys, I cannot stand it.
Cam's awesome. We love Cam. He's doing a great job. And honestly, I would do everything he's doing if I were the youth pastor.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't be good enough to know to do the things that he does happen.
No.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
So, Pastor Rick, you and Cam shared the stage this past week.
We did.
And had a little conversation through it, talking about loving our teens, the next generation. And so I thought, kind of to stir the memories, get us back into that youth mindset. I'm curious, what's a memory of being in youth group or serving in one? Because I believe, if I remember your story right, Rick, you got saved at 17?
Yeah, so did not grow up in church. Sure. Had no concept of church or youth group or any of that. So I started attending youth group because one of my best friends got busted for drugs. And back in the day, so that would have been in the late 1970s.
90s?
No, in the 1970s. I can't remember, maybe 76, 77. I don't know. Do the math. Maybe 78. Anyway, he got busted for drugs and was on probation. And his parents, as punishment, said he had to go to youth group. And so that's a punishment, apparently, that you have to go to youth group. So he said, man, you got to go to church with me. And I said, no, I don't. I didn't get in trouble. You did. So I'm not going. And over several conversations, he convinced me to go to youth group with him. And so it was Sunday night youth group. So I did. I went with him. I was not in a good frame of mind when I went, so we partied a little bit in the afternoon just prior to going to youth group.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so my first few youth group experiences consisted of me being a very, very lost teenager. I would show up for youth group high, but was loved in spite of that. Welcomed and felt connected at some level, and it intrigued. That life intrigued me, and there were lots of other things happening in my life at that point, and God used all those things to come together, and I was transformed through a youth ministry and people who loved me in that, and then other outside sources. So yeah, I have some fond memories of youth ministry.
Awesome. Pastor Nick?
Yeah, when you start talking about youth ministry, you're getting like into core memories here for me. Like going back to when I was in youth group, and then even past that, once I got a little bit older, like it was youth ministry that got me where I am today.
Yeah.
That was, I was the older brother who was taking his little brother to youth group and sitting in the back, waiting for him to get done. And it was the youth leader at the time, Kevin Horner, looking back and saying, "You're sitting here. Why don't you do something? Like you're going to be here anyways." And it started with, "Why don't you come to Colorado with us? It'll be fun. We'll go," roping me in, to being a counselor that way.
So were you not active, kind of like as an actual student?
No.
It was really you got roped in.
Our family, like we transitioned like through churches when I was a teenager.
Okay. Yeah.
So really, I was involved in another youth group when I was like 15, 16, maybe a little bit of 17. But then we switched churches. And so by that point, I was kind of the older junior, senior in high school. And it was a smaller church. It was a church plant, so we were mobile. So I didn't really want to engage.
Sure.
Because I was like, I'm too cool for this.
Yeah.
So I got roped in as being the counselor, the leader to go on a
Yeah.
trip, which then led to me becoming a youth intern and all the harassing.
Yeah, and then we talked about
Yeah.
that.
And honestly, and led to me sitting here today. So like I have like core, deep-seated, memories when you talk about youth group.
Nice. Yeah.
What about you?
Because I know for me, so I grew up in the church, and so, and my parents actually, we were in a small enough church. Our youth leaders were not paid. They were parents that just cycled through and they did it. And so hearing some of the crazy stories that they managed as just volunteers, going to camps and stuff is bananas now as being somebody on staff that, that has to deal with some of those things. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same, Nick, in the sense that because of what happened there, I just assumed that I was going to roll through exactly kind of like my sisters, and my sisters enjoyed youth group, yada yada. It was all good and fine. But right about the time I hit, I think my freshman year, our church went through like this massive church split where we had just gotten big enough where we hired a youth pastor, and he started a youth band, and that got me playing bass and everything. And I did that through middle school, and then our church went through a church split, and both pastors left. And it was literally like, the parents came back down. They're like, "Oh, great, we have to lead this thing." They were actually really, really kind. And they essentially looked at the youth and were kind of like, "What do you guys want to do?" And so as a freshman in high school, I took over our youth band and started leading them, having no clue other than just how to play a couple chords because I had started acoustic guitar earlier in my life, quit because it was too hard, and then picked it back up. And then really because there was that vacuum of not having a constant leader, like a bunch of the youth had to like step up into it, and it kind of led towards leadership and kind of falling in love with that. And so we were a youth group of maybe 20, and 5 of us went into ministry.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which, it's still crazy to this day. We took different paths there.
Do all of you have cool mustaches?
No. I mean, well, technically my wife was in that, so
she doesn't have a...
She doesn't. There is some fun. If you could dig all the way back in MySpace photos where she would put a fake mustache on her face, because that was a thing at that point. Pastor Rick, you and Pastor Cam, you talked about how the enemy is really been more on the attack with our youth. Now that in and of itself is not new.
No.
But I want to talk a little bit about like what's stayed the same over the years, the generations, and what are these kids facing, that is so new, so different.
Yeah. So there's always, I think everyone would agree that young people are susceptible to attack. I mean, we're curious. We want to try new things. There's always been this attack of the enemy that's presented in a way that causes young people to question authority. So none of that is new. What is new in what I'm seeing, what I'm reading, kind of what is out in the world and across the country, is this not a questioning of authority and not a questioning of belief systems, but a total disregard to the respect of the people who went before us, and a total rejection of not just the beliefs, but of the person, of the systems. And so it is a devastating division, a ripping away of all support systems. And the catchword, kind of the big word of the day, is to deconstruct.
Yeah.
Right. And so values and families and culture, like everything is being deconstructed and stripped down. And so young people have this attack of the enemy to say, not only do I have questions about your belief, but I'd throw it out and I'm going to start over, and I'm open to everything. And in fact, I don't even respect you as my parent or as a leader. I don't respect law enforcement. I don't respect. And so it's just like an attack at a whole different level than what we have ever seen before. And again, it kind of falls in line, I believe, with what Scripture says will happen in the last days.
Sure.
So I'm not a doomsday prepper. I don't know when, all of that will eventually play out in full, but I do believe we are in the last days. And it says that, people will become lovers of self. We see that intensifying, that they have a disregard for authority, and they claim to have some sense of belief, yet they deny the existence of everything before. Like, all those things are signs of those last day things. And so I think the attack is intensifying as we get closer and closer to the end. That might be 10 years or 100 years. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But we're getting closer, and it's getting more intense.
They really are building this full assumption that everything that came before them was deeply flawed, and it needs fully rebuilt and everything, which
it is
wildly
a
dangerous.
broken system. The Bible is broken. The Bible is not complete. You should question everything about the Bible, because it is not what you think it is. That's the attack coming against the young people, and they're embracing it because we have these questions. Well, why do I believe what I believe? Is it just because my parents believe it? And then suddenly here comes this attack of, well, you can't trust anything or anyone except the podcast that you're listening to. And
Right. The funny thing is,
we're doing a podcast about, it's interesting.
Yeah, they'll follow what feels right, Pastor Nick.
Yeah, I echo what you say. It's nothing new under the sun.
No.
Like, it's the same thing. Satan wants to kill, steal, and destroy. He wants to break up families. He wants to destroy the structure God put in place. But like what you're saying, it's now down to it doesn't matter about truth. Like, they don't even care about truth, because all truth means is, what do I feel?
Sure.
And that my feeling is truth. And so it doesn't matter if there's objective truth out there to prove that what I feel is wrong. As long as I feel it, then it's okay. Then it's truth. And you can't question my truth, because it's my truth. And a lot of that, I think it's just accelerated. Like, the same attacks are coming on kids. But if you think about, generation, anybody who's 20 and under, it's not even kids anymore, college students.
Sure.
That they've never known a time in their life when the smartphone didn't exist.
Right.
That it's been around their entire life. And really the kids who are coming into middle school now, for a lot of them don't remember much of a time in their life, or some of them, where they didn't have the device of their own.
Yeah.
They didn't have their own tablet. They didn't have their own thing. They didn't have unlimited access to information, false or true.
At all times.
All times. And a lot of times, I see it, like, warning for parents. Lock down what your kids are able to access. Digital freedom is not the starting point, it's the end game. But when you're giving your kids unfiltered access, that means you're giving the world unfiltered access to your child.
Yeah.
And you need to be controlling what they are allowed to consume.
And the honest truth is, even into their teens, they're not ready.
Yeah, no, my daughter is 14 years old. She just got her cell phone on her birthday in May. So she finally got a phone. She does not have access to the internet. She has no access to any social media. The only contacts she has that she's allowed to contact are the ones that are approved through me. So me and Carrie have to approve everybody that she can text message with. Any games or apps, we have to approve to go on there because it's not because I don't trust her, because my daughter is an amazingly responsible young woman.
Yeah.
But we're going to take this step by step before we just let the reins off.
Yeah. So one of the areas, and I'm trying to do a little more study and understanding of this concept at a bigger level, and so I won't go too deep here. But
Sure.
I think that one of the weapons that the enemy is using against all of us, but particularly aiming at young people, is I'll say it this way: the attack of the algorithm.
Oh, yeah.
It's an algorithm attack. And so the enemy is using these algorithms, internet, search engine thing. And it's, if I had a question about something in the past, I questioned it. I listened to what people around me were saying, and I made decisions. Now I have whatever the internet wants me to believe. So if I search something, that algorithm then starts feeding me more and more of what I had questions about. And so it's the attack, one, of the algorithm, two, of the echo chamber.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're in this age where we're living in echo chambers. And so these, these little pockets of people who have questions are stuck in an echo chamber. By the way, COVID did not help in that. No. All of us were kind of living in echo chambers.
Yeah.
And so algorithms and echo chambers are a big part of the attack. And that's something that's unique to our culture that did not exist when I was a kid. And so those are two ways that's very different and very specific.
Oh, it's so subtle too. Like, because I know I watch Instagram reels and everything, and by and large they're pretty benign. But then like I'll get one that's like a little political, but it's not terrible, and I'll kind of laugh at it, and like, but it can tell that like I didn't. And then the next, you'll start seeing more and more, and like if you, and that's where I think Pastor Nick, where you're talking about that that's the end game,
right,
because you have to be able to feel that and see that, because those algorithms are just so. Like it's sneaky. It really is.
And you can't say, well, it's really not that intentional. Oh, it is very intentional. There's an agenda behind that, and we have to fight against the agenda. We have to throw resources. We have to do something to stop that or to address it in a very productive way.
Sure.
Yeah, and I would say, like, along the line, I agree. And if you're a parent sitting out there and you're going, you want to know what echo chamber your kid is in, what they're being fed constantly, pick up your child's phone and go into their Instagram or whatever and check their Explore tab.
Discover, the Explorer.
Hit the Explorer and Discover, whatever, and see what is being fed there, because whatever is being fed there is what they've been consuming.
100%. Yeah, that.
And it may be shocking to you what is being consumed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so so the attack is an intentional attack to try to kill, steal, and destroy. And so those algorithms, the enemy is using them to feed into the process of destroying, breaking down, deconstructing everything that you thought you had put into your kids, to steal your families, to rip apart every belief system and try to destroy every foundation. And it is sneaky, and it's hard to break out of that mindset, because you're just consumed. Then you find yourself in this echo chamber, and everything supported what you questioned, and you're like, well, is that really true? Yes, it is. Look at all these people who said that it was true, and now you're just being fed more and more and more and more information. It doesn't even have to be true. It's just information. Right? And it's a crazy, crazy world.
As you were talking, it made me think. So I'm the youngest one at this table, but I still remember before the internet. So I mean, and I remember even flipping through encyclopedias, and it just made your brain realize that you didn't know everything.
Yeah.
And then I feel like something has shifted, because we have phones and we have, quote unquote, these expert opinions, these echo chambers surrounding us. Everyone is so falsely confident in, these very, very wrong notions, and unwilling to sit and learn from the people that have lived,
Yeah, so in the past, and here's another one of the challenges young people have. So in the past, young people, when they had questions and concerns, there were people who were legitimately authority figures and legitimately they were experts in a field. Right? And so if you could get your hands on something that they had written or had talked about, like you knew this person knows what they're talking about. They were respected in their fields. Okay, so that was back in the day.
Sure.
Well, now anyone who has a computer is an expert. Like we're in this information age. If I can type, I can post something, and immediately people assume I'm an expert.
And if you can make it look professional too, man, you can.
And so,
Yeah.
So we're being inundated by information that's just made up by some person behind a computer that has a grudge, or some person who's disillusioned, or some person who has an agenda, and the enemy's like, I can use that.
Yeah.
And it's just feeding fuel to the fire. And all of us, it's not just young people, everyone then gets captivated by that, and we just love more information. And so young people being a little bit more susceptible to be persuaded or swayed in a certain direction, or just being taken downstream, and a lot of times it's completely out of ignorance. They just they think, oh no, I found the answer, and it's just a bunch of garbage.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
I'll say,
Pastor
or
Nate.
the other one is you may have somebody who is a legitimate expert who writes something. So now the way to combat that is fact checkers.
Yeah.
Somebody who isn't an expert will fact check this person, but a lot of times they come from their own biased position,
Yeah.
and they fact check and say this is false, even though they don't have the knowledge or understanding
there's
to
no
be the fact checker.
Yeah, there's nothing to support. It's just again, I'm going to deconstruct. I'm going to try to poke a hole in what you just said without having any real supporting evidence to what I'm saying. But now it's created another level of doubt and discrediting people who really do have some credibility.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a weird time.
The age of people and the age of generations learning to sit across the table from somebody, not on a podcast, and have an actual conversation with them to learn and to discuss is quickly melting away. So the need is great, but going to Scripture, Pastor Cam was in Matthew because he's a wise man.
Yes,
right.
He picked up what I was laying down.
So in Matthew 9, he's talking about, Jesus is preaching to these people, and they're just like lost sheep, and he ends by saying the harvest is great, but the workers are few. And so we don't want to be doomsdayers here, we're not building bunkers, but so what should somebody's response to this to a message like this be? Should they just feel overwhelmed? Should they just avoid it all, keep their head down and work? Like, what should this stir up in somebody?
Yeah. So in my heart, in my mind, when I, listen to Pastor Cam talk about what our youth are experiencing, I think the obvious response to that as a follower of Jesus is, I'm not gonna build a bunker. I'm not gonna put my head in the sand. I'm gonna get involved. I'm gonna do something, whether it's serving every Wednesday night, if it's just being available as a mentor, if it's I don't know what it is. Like right now we have, I think 6 or 7 adults that are in Nebraska with our 50+ teenagers.
Lord have mercy.
I know. It's just, I'm
kidding. God bless you guys.
It's pretty overwhelming, but we have Bob Marshall, a 50-something-year-old man.
He's
I don't
easily
know.
in his 30s.
Yeah,
He's fine.
okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
So, has I think he's like an engineer. I don't know. He has a very good job.
Sure.
But he sees the value of kids, so he's going to invest in them.
The kids love Bob.
Yeah.
You have anytime there's a game or something,
We want Bob in there.
Bob gets called.
Yeah, so he's in all due respect, Bob, if you're listening to this, an older
Of the people serving, he
he's
is.
an older
Sure.
man, and in his 50s, but has a passion.
He does,
to
yes.
invest in kids. We have Josh Randall, who he's a manual labor. He lays carpet and tile work. He's out and about. He's taken time out of his career to invest in kids. We have Allie Spann, who's gone through our youth ministry. She wants to then invest back in, so she's going to serve this weekend as well. Angela Adrian, who's a mom, who's been in our church for a long time, who is not in her 50s, by the way.
Angela would.
But is a Denver Bronco fan.
She is a Denver Bronco fan, which we won't hold that against her. But
I will.
She's got a busy life.
The
She's
enemy
got
is-
kids of
No,
her
I'm just
own.
kidding.
She's got activities, but she's saying I want to take time and invest in our teenagers. Right, so we have some adults, but we need more. Like, so the workers are there, but they're just few. And so when Cam says, I read that passage and I've been praying as a youth pastor that the Lord send more workers because the harvest is great. And I think we live in a community where adults and solid Jesus followers can be people of influence within our teenagers. And we have, I don't know what the numbers are right now, but well over 100 kids, probably a couple of hundred kids that are deeply connected here at New Life from the middle school and high school. They're not all here every Wednesday night, but a couple of hundred that are, very connected, and they need people to shepherd them. They need people to love them and help them feel welcomed,
Yeah.
to help them understand who God is. And so, the response is, hey, I'm a worker. I can go out into the field. I can do something.
What do you think when you hear that, Pastor Nick?
I feel Pastor Cam's pain
Yeah.
because it's the same. I mean, it doesn't.
Absolutely.
It's kids. It's youth. And and with youth, it gets harder. The older kids get, the more people feel that they're underqualified.
Yeah.
But it's not about being qualified. Kids need you to be there.
Yeah.
Like, especially, more and more kids, if they're coming from broken homes and stuff, they need adults who can just show the love of God to them and who are willing to walk with them through their problems. So it's not about being, able to, answer deep theological questions, because most of the time these kids aren't going to ask them of you. Like, they may if they get in a really close, relationship, like where they really trust you, but they're not. That's not what they're looking for. They're wanting someone who can help them figure out, how do I relate to my mom and dad?
Sure.
What do I do with this problem at school? Will you accept me even though I'm a mess right now?
Yep.
You need those people. I'm like, there's a lot of people, they hear middle schoolers and they just run screaming for the hills because, all they see is like, oh, these middle schoolers, they're just, terrors. Yeah, well, they also are kids who are seeking, improvement, that they need love. And honestly, they're some of them, it's some of the most fun you can possibly have if you can get through their sticky points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, personal involvement is one response. Prayer,
Yeah.
just make it like, I'm praying for Cam, I'm praying for the kids, I'm praying for the leaders every day. And third, and this is going to sound, I don't know, coming from a pastor, but money.
Sure.
Kids, it's expensive.
Yeah.
As they get older, the things that you want to do as an older teen, they cost more money. The ministry gets more expensive. And if we want to keep the kids engaged, we have to be willing to invest financially into the things that captivate them. And so, again, if you're not tithing, start tithing, because
Yeah.
a big portion of our budget goes to children's ministry,
And they
youth
ain't-
ministry, and
They ain't ever going to give money.
Yeah.
I mean, later in life.
Oh,
but
yeah. So, the 14, 15, 16-year-olds, they're not investing financially. They're reaping the benefit of those of us who are investing. And so, as our budget grows and grows and grows, we're able to invest more into the youth and provide them with opportunities and things that will keep them engaged. And so, it is a financial investment, and there's no other way to say it. You can't just, give them, crappy things and say, hey, we want you to love Jesus. And
We value you.
Yeah, we value. And they're like, no, the world is throwing a lot of money at us. And that's what's captivating them. So that's a big part of the ministry. And so if you're not tithing, there's your call. It's invest in the kingdom by investing in the kids.
Well, I would say too, if you have teens, be in their life.
Yeah.
Because, I think you hit on that a couple weeks ago, Pastor Nick, but the bottom line is, even for the hour and the week or whatever that we get them, we can never make the impact that a parent can.
That's right.
We never can. Like, we will absolutely pour everything we can into them. We will love them with the love of Jesus, but we will never be able to do what
and
a
I think
parent
that's
can.
the heart that Cameron has, is he truly has a heart of partnership, that he wants to partner with parents. The youth leaders want to be there to partner with you, to walk with you, not to take your place and not to be the one who gives all the answers and not to second guess all of your decisions, but to literally walk with you, to support you and encourage you on this journey.
Yep. Well, guys, I appreciate you for the conversation today. We got a 7-minute story coming up, so make sure you stick around on the 167.
Hey, welcome back to 7-Minute Stories here on the 167. I am here with Olivia Bacon.
Hi,
How are you doing today?
doing good.
And you're going to tell us a little bit about your story today. So let's just start at the beginning. Tell me a little bit about where you grew up, where you're coming from.
Well, I grew up on a farm with two parents together. They've been married their whole life, well, my whole life. I grew up at a farm, and then I moved to town. I went to a Catholic school, which is something quite different from what I go to now, like in a way. I was raised and went to school in a Catholic setting, and I kind of got this idea that God was kind of mean, even at a young age. I was kind of like fearful of him, like if I do something bad, I'll go to hell. Like that was just the way I felt about it. And prayers to me back then were kind of just like the Our Fathers and the Hail Marys, the prayers in the books that you read and you learn in school. And so I never really got a close relationship with God as a child. And so later on, when I got a little bit older, I started to test alcohol. And with alcohol and with God, I kind of had to choose one, because I felt like God hated me if I was drinking. And so I kind of stopped praying, even the prayers that I hadn't learned, and kind of pushed away God and took alcohol as like my forefront for several years. So that's
it's
me
kind of
as
a
child.
crazy thing where it's like it does drive you to that, where it's like, well, I can do both. And really it's like, well, now I'm ashamed. And so I just start to inch my way out of there.
Yeah, there was like I got confirmed in high school, like in the Catholic religion, and that's when I kind of stopped going completely. Though it felt like I lost my relationship with God, for sure. I was ashamed from the alcohol. I drank more. I drank differently than anybody else I knew. Like I was a passed out drunk in high school, and until I quit drinking, that's the way life was for me. And God definitely did not have a place in that. You know, I had the please help me gods, you know, like save me this once and I'll start going to church again, or things like that. But I never really sat down and like prayed to God. As even in my 20s, I still didn't really understand how to have a relationship with God or my religion.
How long did this go on?
Oh, well, I got confirmed when I was 17. That's basically when I quit going to church. And then I started to try to quit drinking in my 20s. I got 3 DUIs in a matter of like 2 years. Well, 3 years. And so I started to try to quit drinking. And while I quit, I started hearing things about like higher powers, like you gotta have faith, you know, you have to have something spiritual, you know, you have to have something. And I started to like kind of I was trying out different religions.
Like, I gotta have something.
Yeah, and then I started thinking, okay, I'm shopping. This is kind of awkward because I go with all my friends to all these different churches. And I did go to a Christian church, and I thought, this is really weird. Like, it's fun. Like, that's the first time I actually had gone to a Christian church and, heard everybody singing, and just I loved it. I remember loving it, wanting to go back. And this is when I was in treatment for alcohol. But then I got out, and, I didn't have a strong spiritual, ground at that point. And I was back out drinking and, kind of forgot everything about God. Because, again, I still had this idea that God hated me. It was embedded in my, God didn't want anything to do with me because I was drinking and killing myself, and I was ashamed, and I eventually it closed off everybody in my family. Like, I didn't really talk to anybody. I did get married, but I was in an abusive relationship, and he was Catholic also, but he didn't go to church at all. And so, I didn't have any kind of pressures to go because my family, who had been going, was no longer around, and his family didn't really practice anything. And so, alcohol was my God first until I was in my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then
When did that all kind of come to a head?
it's crazy. It's so crazy cool. Well, I kept going in and out of treatments, and I started learning how to talk to God. I didn't know God. I couldn't picture God, couldn't think of God. But I started to talk to something. That was just my first leap of faith, blind faith. Okay, I'm gonna sit here and they say talk to somebody. And so I'm just gonna talk and try to do this. And so I did. I started talking to God, and quite often. It was pretty cool. So I did learn how to have a relationship with God, but then alcohol got me again. The devil was it's after you all the time. It's sitting in the backyard doing sit-ups trying to get you,
He's just waiting for it.
Yeah. And any kind of open opportunity, it was back to alcohol, goodbye God for me. But I finally, a year ago, I got really sick. I got really, really sick. I had to go to the hospital. My husband took me, and I walked in there, and I thought it was just going to be another one of my drunk detox moments and then go home. And then I ended up waking up about 2 weeks later. I had been awake before that, but not really awake. I don't remember anything from the first 2 weeks of being in the hospital. I apparently was they thought I was going to die within 2 days of being there. And that's when I guess everybody started kicking in the prayers, I couldn't. I was in no shape. I didn't know anything. I had no idea what was going on. And the doctors all pretty much wanted me to be do not resuscitate. They were sending my family home. She's gone. Just you try to deal with this on your own. It was just, I guess, the end for me. And, somehow, through the prayers, because my husband started praying a lot, and he spread it out to everybody, and he met some people here in, yeah.
Well, and it was funny because I remember the reports coming in where it was she's in a coma. She's not going to wake up. Mm-hmm. And then it was well, she's awake, but she's going to die within 24 hours. Well, now it's 48 hours. Well, now it's a week. Well, now it's 2 weeks. Well, she has 2 months to live. Yeah. And that was how long ago?
Over a year ago now.
Yeah.
Oh, a year and 2 months.
Because you were what, in kidney or liver failure?
Liver failure, complete end-stage liver failure. You couldn't get worse than where I was. All my all my organs basically were quitting. My kidneys, my spleen, everything. It was just, I was bloated, and it didn't even, I've seen pictures, I don't even recognize that person.
Was it jaundice? You were very orange and...
Yeah, my eyeballs were sticking out. It was crazy, but it was I don't know how to make it as somebody to understand it, just how close to death I was and how God did save me. There's no other way.
Yeah.
There's no explaining it other than that. I do remember when one of the guys, can I say his name?
Sure.
When Mike came to see me, and I remember not much of it, but I do remember him promising. He told the bad to go. Mm-hmm. He said, you're not welcome here. You're not allowed here. Get out. And after he visited me that time, I think he came before that, but this was the first time I remember. But after he came to see me that night, I felt like okay. Like before his visit, I was up every night screaming and hollering, nightmares. Like I was the worst patient you could ask for, I guess. But that night I slept and I woke up and I was seeing like snakes in the ceiling. Like it was crazy. But that night I didn't see anything. Like I was calm and I felt safe, which was like so weird because for as long as I could think, I was just seeing things, and I was so scared, and I didn't feel so scared anymore after I saw him. And that alone was God, coming and telling me it's going to be okay, and came through Mike, and
Yeah.
But so of course I did end up getting better. All the prayers paid off. Like I'm a miracle. There's no explanation. They cannot explain why I'm alive except for what I know is God and the prayers that were given to me. Because there's no human being could save me. Like this is a miracle. I don't understand why.
Yeah. And how long have you been dry for now?
I've been clean since April 24th of last year, so over a year and a couple of months.
That's awesome.
I know, and that's the one thing. It's different. Like, I feel I have a relationship with God, and I've been developing it through you guys. Every time you've come to see me at home, it's been uplifting, and it's made me more motivated to get more into the books and into just talking to God. Like, to have him in my life is so amazing, and it's because of you guys mostly. Like, that's how I was finally really introduced to a relationship and to God. Like, I'm not scared of him. There's nothing to be scared of, and honestly, I'm not even scared of dying anymore. Like I know before I was terrified, because if I died, I was going to hell because I was drinking. And now, I have a relationship with God, and I'm doing what I need to do. But I did get baptized too.
Yes, you did.
Which was amazing. That was like so cool. I didn't think I could, because I was baptized as a child in the Catholic religion, but it was so cool when I got to get baptized. Like I felt different. Like you guys dunked me and I came up and I felt like the complete different person. It was amazing. I don't understand that either. It's just God's been working in my life a lot. And I'm finally seeing and understanding more about it. I'm starting a women's group study with my mother-in-law and some of her friends. It's Bible study.
That's awesome.
Women, about Jesus and women, like the relationships that they had. I'm really excited about that. And I get to have a closer relationship with my husband's mom, which, a few years ago, she didn't really know me.
Yeah.
Nobody really knew me. They just knew I was there, and I was quiet, and I was kind of yellow.
Well, every time I see you, you seem healthier, both spiritually, mentally. You seem physically. Like every time I see you, I'm like, is this like? I remember you came in to get baptized, and I was like, who are you? And you're like, Olivia. I was like, oh my goodness, because last time I had seen you, we were praying for that. You were still in liver failure.
Oh yeah, that was it. I'm still sick. That's one thing to say. I was in liver failure, and I'm not in end-stage liver failure anymore. I'm not on the transplant list anymore. I'm not drinking, which is helping me stay that way. Mm-hmm. I think it's been about 6 months since I was off the list, which is so cool.
Yeah.
Such a relief. But I'm still sick, and I still have to follow like certain things. I gotta take care of myself differently now because I am sick, but it's nothing. It's worth it. It's just a thing now. I'll do whatever I have to stay healthy and alive, and the way things are. I appreciate life. Like flowers, I've been planting like a maniac. Mm-hmm. I never planted a flower in my life until like this last year. I've just really been enjoying everything. Like I drive by houses and I see their flowers, and never did that. Never ever. Like maybe I'd notice a car or something strange in somebody's yard, but never flowers. But just I feel God in me. You know, he's working in me and he's showing me his beauty and what he has to offer me and the world. Like he's just, I'm blessed. Sick or not, I'm here and I'm appreciating every day. Because I may only have like a little bit. I may not have.
We each only have whatever we got.
And the cool thing is, and it's been because of praying with you guys, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Maybe it's 12 years, but maybe it'll be 20. You know what it is, it is. And
well, first it was 2 days, and then it was
2 weeks, and 2 months. But
it's just so, thank you for coming in and sharing your story, because it's just so clear that God is just transforming you from the inside out. So thanks for coming in and sharing that.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next time here on the 167. If you enjoyed this episode of the 167, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, get notified, leave a 5-star rating and a positive review. Tell all your friends to listen as well. Make sure you go over to newlifegardener.com and check out all that we have to offer as a church, and check out our messages online as well. Thanks for listening.